Welcome to the Fulcrum Focus podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Ricks. We started the Fulcrum Focus a couple months back to introduce you, my listeners, to different business owners, leaders, and just really interesting people with really interesting stories that I feel like would bring you value. And who is you? As I take a look at the different people that follow us, I see things like executive director, business strategist, project manager, human resources, shepherds. I'm just kidding. Shepherds don't follow us. Today, I'm very honored to have an extremely good friend of mine on our podcast, Nathan Trevett. Nathan, how are you doing? And are you ready for this?
Doing good. Yeah. No, looking forward to it. This will be my first time on podcast. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have a lot more than you, so we'll get through it, man. We'll be good. Nathan is the president of a company called Trevett's, which oddly enough, his last name is Trevett. I am not going to tell you what Nathan does. I'm going to let him explain that. And the reason you might want to listen to this today is because Nathan has one of the most unique and best stories that I've ever heard. I have a lot of conversations with, the people that I'm doing this for, which would be business owners, leaders, and interesting people. And I probably tell the story of Trevett's. I bet you I tell it 30 times a year, just because it is fascinating. It is amazing about how, Nathan will tell you this in a second, but just how it started and kind of where it is today. So Nathan, why don't you take a couple minutes and just tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about the Trevett story.
Sure. So yeah, Trevett's began in 1987 when we moved here. My dad had been transferred to Columbia, South Carolina, where we are. And my mom was looking for something to do. The kids were into school, and she needed something to stay busy. She had been a school teacher, but she didn't want to go back to teaching. And so my dad had a friend who owned a pool supply store. He had been taking a bunch of slips of paper from people who came in to do a raffle, and he wanted to do a mailing to all those people. My family had bought an Apple IIe computer before that, so my sisters and I could have opportunity with computer and kind of just an educational tool. And so the guy at the pool store asked my dad, "Hey, you have a computer. Why don't you set up and do a mailing? Is that something you could do? Can you print out labels? Can you type these in and print out labels?" And he told him, "Sure, we'll give it a try." He didn't really know how to make that happen, but I think with some advice from the high schooler next door and some others, they were able to figure out how to do that first mailing. And in the process, my mom loved inputting the names and doing the data entry, and she enjoyed the challenge of figuring out how to solve the problems. So she began down that path of providing mailing services to the companies around them. And so I grew up in that setting. I grew up around the mail shop. My background, I went to USC and majored in mechanical engineering. So I got my undergraduate and graduate degree there. I went and spent several years designing equipment for automation. One of the machines I designed ended up getting moved to Mexico, and then they ordered 8 more of those machines. And my wife was pregnant with our first child, and so I decided, this might be a good time to reevaluate. And I looked at the family business, thought, I think there's some potential that we can make happen here. So I came in and brought in a lot of new services from the print side, as well as then graphic design, web development. So today, with Trevett's, we help organizations, help people become known. We make sure that their brand is established. We help them get their information out, help them communicate what their message is out to the target audience.
Gotcha. Well, the two biggest reasons I want to bring you on is just to share that story. Just, I obviously wasn't there, didn't see what that looked like, but I just imagine a truck with reverse lights beeping, backing up in your yard, and y'all really didn't know the magnitude of what that was. I think I heard you say one time.
Yeah, no, you're right. We have pictures on the wall here of the first time the 18-wheeler, stopped off in front of the house, and the guy came out and said, "Hey, lady, where's your forklift?" Well, we don't have a forklift, but they figured a place to go and to make the transfer happen into the family car, and got all the pieces into the house. So yeah, it took a few years before we realized, I think, that we didn't have the capacity inside the house to keep that going, but it was definitely a fun experience getting to grow up through that.
You still have the computer that you mentioned that I don't know what is exactly?
The Apple IIe. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a classic. No, that's what, yeah, in school, that's what we had in all the computer labs. You had floppy, the 5.25 inch floppy disks, no hard drive, just put a game in one side, put a disk to save it in the other, or a word processor. Yeah, Apple IIe. That was, I don't still have it, but no, that's a classic computer there.
Well, I think if you drive by your location, I before I really knew you and I saw what it was, I would have said, hey, there's a print store. So if you need something printed, I guess you go there. I've toured your facility twice, and you guys do extremely different things for extremely different people. I think the variety of what you guys do is amazing. So I was going to kind of get you to say a little bit about that, but then there had to be a ton of thought, a think tank, or I don't know exactly how you guys make decisions, but as the years have gone by from, hey, mom's got a delivery truck in the front yard to printing the booklets for, I think, Miss South Carolina and ID cards for insurance carriers and stuff like that. What's the process? I want to kind of speak to my C-suite folks right now. Kind of the process, how you guys come up with ideas and make decisions on deciding, hey, we don't do this at all, but let's do it because A, B, and C. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit of what you do, and then kind of how the process goes as far as when you're thinking these things through.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean, there is a lot of decision that goes into, is this an industry, an area, a segment that we want to be part of? I think the first point of decision is it tangential to what we do? So does it sit next to what we do? Is it the same client base? Is it an added service that we can market to our existing clients? Or is it something that's completely different that really requires a start over and belongs as a separate organization? So the things that we've gone toward have been those nearby services that the same clientele need that we're already addressing. So that, I think that's step one. Is it close by? I don't get too hung up on, is it going to be profitable in its own? You can't ignore that. But if it's a service that my clients need, I want to make sure that we're able to provide it and that they aren't forced to go find somewhere else if we can provide it for them. Obviously, you got to find ways to make that profitability effective, yeah. But that's never my top priority when I'm looking at new avenues.
Yeah. Did I get that right? Y'all do print the booklets for the pageant. You do print plastic ID cards.
Yeah.
What else do you guys do? Remind me.
Yeah, so we start, if my favorite jobs are the ones that go from start to finish, that hit on all the different things that we can offer, which, some of those come in and those are always exciting when they happen. But it starts with branding. It starts with helping an organization create the persona of who they are, beyond just a logo, but including a logo. And it can go as far back as naming. I've got a story about an organization that we took all the way from there and took it all through completion. So when I'm thinking about some of my favorite jobs, I think that's probably who I'm thinking of. But this organization was they're up in North Carolina. I honestly, I don't even know if I could tell you for sure what their original name was because it was so long and cumbersome, but something along the lines of Cradle of Forestry Interpretive Association of America. It was something like that. And we helped rebrand them as Find Outdoors. So they manage outdoor, state parks and stuff like that, where you can have facilities, you can have gift stores, you can have the trails maintained, all the things that go into running a state park. Uh-huh. They help do that. So we gave them a new brand. We helped them understand how that's going to work and how they're going to be effective with it. So that was on the creative side. And then after that, they needed elements designed to be printed, as well as signage and whatever that they needed up on their facility. But then some of those print pieces start flowing through our print shop. And so from there, we're picking the papers, we're putting the ink on paper, making it work, just having some really high quality pieces that they wanted to exemplify who they were and to show this new brand on. And so we would get printed, it would go through finishing operations where we're, binding it into a book. They have to get shrink wrapped and packaged and shipped out and all the things that kind of tie together those pieces that we do. So when I think of what are the services we offer, I'm thinking through like kind of those processes of how do I take someone from start all the way through finish of a communication project. Yeah.
Hey, remind me, how many employees do y'all have?
We have 27 employees right now.
Okay. So one of the things that I personally enjoy doing and what I do is, and I'm extremely interested and I'm always looking to learn more, is just workplace culture. It's just amazing the difference in a staff and teammates when there's just a really good culture out there. I know several of your employees personally, and they range age ranges from 20s to 40s and almost 50s maybe. And I just sense and see pieces and flashes of a really good culture, an environment where the employee actually thrives. They're very clear on what's expected, what their job is, and all other aspects that go into culture. Tell me about your culture. Tell me what drives your culture. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say the culture is definitely one of team, one of family. We are a family-run business, but we also treat each other. You have to be careful because some families don't treat each other well. But in the terms of what I think a family should be, we try to treat each other like that at work. Try to treat each other like we're teammates working toward a common goal, whether it was a sports team or something like that. That we really do have an objective that we're trying to achieve, and what that objective is to create compelling communication for our clients. Like that's the end goal, is to make sure that everything that we touch is accomplishing exactly what the client wanted it to, or going above expectations.
What was your theme word you used a while ago, or words?
We try to create compelling communication. Is that the one?
No, it wasn't communicate. I forgot what it was. When you're talking through how you're going to solve a problem or how you're going to do something, I think you had a theme. I cannot remember what it was, but it sounded like it was tied to your values. I just can't remember what the word was. Your mom and dad are still involved, correct?
They are. Yep. They're here every day. They contribute to the pieces that they want to, and they're at the point where they get to choose a little bit more of what pieces they might want to be involved in.
Yeah.
So that's good. But they get to see family. They get, the people that they've been working with here for the last 20 plus years. I mean, our family.
Yeah.
They enjoy coming in and spending time with them.
You mentioned that you do not have a unique problem, or you do not have a problem. Well, not as much of a problem as other folks that I see for sure. But when it comes to hiring and choosing the talent that you're trying to bring in, it sounds like based on your culture, you don't have that happen a lot. It sounds like your retention is pretty doggone good, and it sounds like it's a direct result of the culture that you guys build, the family type culture.
Yeah. So I mean, people need to have something that they're rallying behind and that they're moving toward. So we are always trying to improve. We're always trying to make progress, but yeah, the culture definitely works toward retention. We make sure that if the company is successful, that employees are going to be rewarded for that. So we have profit sharing that's in place, and that's not intended as a retention plan. That's intended to be what you should do. If money's being made, let's share the money with people that are that are the integral parts of making that happen. That's our mentality.
Yeah, I spoke with somebody else and saw another podcast the other day where theirs is even further, where it's a employee-owned company, and it's not a huge company. It's probably less than 100 employees, but just allowing the employee to, you're not muzzling the ox. If you guys are doing well in a quarter or a year, you're able to pass that along and say a special, hey, this is why, this is because of your effort, and you're able to pass that along to the employees. And I think that's a great retention tool in itself. As far as decision making, I'm always enamored that you guys have you guys have done several types of services. What's your decision process like that? Do you make all the decisions, or do you have an executive team or team leaders that y'all make those decisions together? Kind of tell me the process for decision making.
Yeah, so there's 3 owners here who obviously we mull over the big decisions and work through that. But I have key team members in every area who I'm going to get feedback from before making any kind of decision for where we're going. What I don't ever want to do is presume that I have all the answers and that I'm the one with all the knowledge, and just being to go make unilateral decisions. I want to make sure that I'm receptive to other points of view and the people who see other sides that I'm not seeing. we emphasize that from, we do peer reviews for, as far as getting teams to evaluate each other, because they know more of what's going on with their coworkers than I do. But when it gets into making big decisions, we're always going to be running that by everybody. We really do view it as a team where we're interested in what everybody thinks, and there isn't a dismissed opinion. It's all going to be valued and respected.
When you look at your organization, and whether it's a job or you just take a big step back, what's the one thing, if you look at, that just makes you proud? What would that be? As you look at your people, your business, what's, if you can name just one thing that just makes you proud? Knowing that you are the president, you're the guy in charge. What's the one thing that you would say that makes me the most proud?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about helping people. You can accomplish all kinds of things, but if you aren't helping people, and that can be the people internal, that can be our team members, but it can also be our clients. I think that's what we're all shooting for, is to make a difference, to be a help. That sometimes that means that you're giving something away, but sometimes it means that you're being helpful in what you do for a living. Yeah, I think people is the key. Yeah. What are we doing for people? What are we doing to make their lives better? What are we doing to impact their organizations, their businesses? That's ultimately what we're shooting for.
That's great. It sounds like that goes from all the way from the employee to the client. And it sounds like your clients are definitely revolving door type clients. And that was one of the things that impressed me the most when I really didn't know you that well. Because one of my first questions was about your sales team and things like that. And you're like, well, our sales team is really me, because we've got some really good clients, and those clients end up, number one, talking about us, and which produces other clients. But also those clients are kind of a revolving door. If you're doing something on an annual, if you're doing something that happens every year for a client, if you're doing a great job, well, guess who calls you again next year, kind of thing. So that was one of the first images I had of you. One question, it's something I personally do a lot, and I love asking business owners this question, just knowing that from a leader's perspective, there's so much that is on your shoulders. There's a lot of pressure to make the correct decisions, make everybody feel included, all sorts of things. And it all starts from your day, your beginning of your day. So here's my question I ask every business leader I speak to is, what is your morning routine? And I ask that because my listeners may think, why do you want to know that? It makes a big difference. I've asked a couple, we're using a consultant right to help us with some branding. And he actually did a podcast about his morning routine. And his morning routine was this: he wakes up at 5 a.m., he takes an ice cold shower, doesn't bathe, just takes a shower for 90 seconds. He works out. I think he takes a real bath after that. I hope he does. And then he reads, I think, 13 pages of something that he's focused on trying to learn more about. And I cannot remember everything else, but his day starts out very purposeful. It might change here or there, but Nathan, what is your morning routine that kind of gets you focused and into the day that who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I do have a very, very, I guess, regimented routine. I'm out the door by 5 every morning to go work out. So my alarm is set for every weekday to be 4:35. That's how long it takes me to get ready and get out the door. So yeah, at 5, I'm working out somewhere, somehow. So that sometimes a peer-led boot camp outside, or it might be a swim, or it might be a run. But I'm going to be doing something from 5:15 until I'll be home by 6:15. At 6:15, I'm in the Bible, I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm studying for 15-20 minutes. And then I'm getting my kids on the bus, getting them out the door. And then I go get my shower, get ready for the day. And I'm usually on the road between 7:20, 7:30. So.
Nathan was gracious enough not to mention that I used to be involved in some of those peer-led workouts until I kind of dropped out. But Nathan and I used to do F3, and Nathan still does F3, and I don't. I do some other things, but thank you for being gracious with that, Nathan. What would be, and I'll wind us up here in a second, but when you're, I guess, what's a non-negotiable when you are looking at bringing people on? You've probably have a really good resume, not an actual resume, but just someone's conversation about a person that you might be hiring. As you're talking to that person and maybe even mulling over it until just business decisions, what's a non-negotiable that you have in place when making decisions on hiring, making decisions on just decisions, big decisions, small decisions, things like that? If you could only keep one thing, what's a non-negotiable for you as the president of a company? And I did not ask you that question beforehand, so surprise.
No, when I'm looking at, a hire specifically, gosh, if I had to limit it down to just one, I can get to two in my head. I'll start with two. For someone to fit into our culture, and this sounds trite, but they've got to be friendly. They're not going to fit in if they can't be polite, be cordial, care about other people. If you don't care about other people, you're not going to work toward helping other people. Just being kind, that's going to be the first thing when I'm looking to hire. And the second thing, which is super hard to evaluate in an interview setting, usually takes a lot more than that, but a principle that drives everything we do is hard work. Whether it's boot camps at 5 in the morning or whatever, I value being surrounded by people who want to work hard, not just get by with the minimum, not just skirt by on something they did the day before, but they're driven by the challenges that come before them, and they want to work until the job's done and want to make sure that they've done it to the best they can. And that's an internal thing that you got to find in people. And if you find that, those people are going to be successful at whatever they do.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Again, thank you for being here. Can I tell you, I'm going to narrow it down to one. Can I tell you one thing I've learned from you, Nathan?
Sure.
Early on, and I had more of an immature look at business owners. I just assumed business owners were like, oh, we got to grow by 15% this year, and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of ask you, how are you growing, things like that? And you are one of the most methodical thinkers and decision makers that I've ever met. I think patience is a huge virtue that you have. And what I've gained from you is that you just really want to do a good job and treat people the way they should be treated, and have a good product. You want their expectations to be met for what they need. You want to be on time, a good product. And I think you model that for your employees. And I think that's awesome, because they also take that in and operate that way. So as far as decisions, seems like you're a great decision maker, because you don't make one like that. You're not trying to grow by leaps and bounds, but you're trying to grow the correct way. You're trying to grow because it's time to grow, because 6 months ago or a year ago, that would not have worked. And if you'd made that decision, you'd be suffering from it right now. Nathan, thanks again, man. I know you're busy and know what's going on. Tell my listeners where they can find you. Sure.
Yeah, we got multiple websites online. We have two departments, our creative plus department. So that is at creative.plus. And our print and mail side is going to be at trevetts.com, TREVETTS.com.
Printmail.bliss, BLISS.
No, there was trevetts.com, and then there was creative.plus, PLUS.
Gotcha. Mixed them up. Okay, good deal. All right, buddy. Well, you have a great day, and thanks for being with us.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. Have a good one.
All right, you too.